Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us from different parts of the world. I hope you guys are ready for the next session, which is on speed, scale, and success. Now, accelerator programs are one of the most powerful vehicles for helping entrepreneurs to learn rapidly, create powerful networks, raise money, build their startups, and do this at speed and scale. Choosing the right accelerator and getting into it need not be a complicated affair. And that's exactly that our amazing set of panelists would be talking about today. We have an amazing moderator, Sudha Reddy, who's the head of product and general manager at Sabio India. Sudha, over to you.
Thanks, Gunjan. So, as Gunjan already talked about, we have all heard about the acceleration programs and how they have become the innovation vehicles and bridge for entrepreneurs to bring their innovations into reality. So today we want to talk to you and give you like pointers on how and where these are relevant. We have some amazing panelists for you. We have folks from either end of the spectrum. One side of the spectrum is the head of innovations themselves, which is Rajeshri Rao, who heads the innovation at Rolls-Royce. We also have Shruti Kanan, who is the head of Cisco Launch Labs on the industry side. And we also have Anupam Jalote, who is the CEO of Icreate that directly works with entrepreneurs on their startup journey. Let me quickly introduce them over to you, and then we'll start this discussion. Rajeshri is a globally acclaimed industry thought leader, visionary, advisor, and mentor for several next-gen technologies, including AI, cloud computing, IoTs, as well as blockchain across industry verticals. Rajeshri, do you want to quickly talk about your head of innovation program at Rolls-Royce?
Hi, Sudha, and thank you, Ty, for this wonderful opportunity. Hi, I'm Rajeshri Rao. Like Sudha mentioned, I head the AI Innovation Hub at Icreate Data Labs and for Rolls-Royce. I also work with the partnership and ecosystem on to how do we make innovation happen. So innovation today doesn't have to be driven from in-house. We can leverage what is already existing in the external world. And that is why at Rolls-Royce, that is our Square Data Labs, we believe in partnerships and ecosystem collaboration. And we believe in driving innovation through co-creation, co-innovation model, which means I'm bringing the best of both worlds. I have at Rolls-Royce, we have the domain expertise, and I'm leveraging the technology within the industry and seeing how do we quickly come together and address a business problem, which is definitely not just solving Rolls-Royce's problem. And if it does, which means it is also scalable. So we have a bigger opportunity of commercializing the solution and doing a joint go-to-market. So that is in a nutshell. But today we are not specific driven by programs. The way we are looking at is establishing how the R Square Data Labs work through the partnership and ecosystem collaboration models. And that's why we say it's all about co-creation, co-innovation. And for me, the industry players at large, I can leverage anybody from the ecosystem, right from the academia to the VCs to the startup ecosystem to corporates, you name it, right? Government, industry bodies. I can work with the universe. So I don't limit myself, or we don't limit ourselves. So that's in a nutshell. Thank you.
Great. And then the next panelist we have is Shruti Kanan. She heads the Cisco Launchpad, a techno-business corporate accelerator, where she orchestrates meaningful outcomes for startups in their startup scale-up journey. She works with deep tech startup founders on fine-tuning their business strategies, co-creating end-to-end digital solutions, and opening up joint go-to-market opportunities as well as funding. So let's hear from her about the Launchpad.
Thank you, Sudha, for the very warm welcome. There are a lot of statistics that say that 90% of the new startups fail. So our endeavor is to try and flip the startups from this side, from the red side to the green side of the statistics. So that's indeed our endeavor. And while doing that, we want to make sure that we are creating impact for the communities that we live in. It's all about driving digitization and increasing the scope of innovation to create a positive and digital environment for us to sustain and survive in this new normal world. So from that perspective, we're very fortunate to be working very closely with the deep tech startups on all the areas that you just mentioned, a wide gamut of areas, almost everything under the sun that requires communication, connectivity, networking. We are in the fray. We are working with the startups on uh, getting their product out there to the communities and create a positive impact. So just to initiate this, I would say for us, it's just not about creating unicorns of valuation of 1 billion. It's about creating value for 1 billion people and beyond.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. And finally, we have the last panelist, who is Anupam Jilote. He's the CEO of Icreate. If you guys haven't heard of Icreate, Icreate is India's only dedicated institution for converting tech innovations into successful enterprises. And so far, they have worked with 200 innovators in their startup journey to make them to come to fruition. So let's hear from him.
Thanks, Sudha. And to take off where Shruti left off, Icreate takes bets on entrepreneurs, understanding that it's ultimately the entrepreneur who carries the baton through to commercial success. And solutions for billions of people is ultimately the holy grail that all of us strive for. We also understand that acceleration is a little bit like icing on the cake. The cake bakes slowly. So Icreate is a very patient place. We understand that it can take 2, 3 years, 4 years for an idea to get converted into a commercial success. We're a very unique government-private interface kind of a not-for-profit organization. We have the body of the government. The government funds us, and our chairman is a senior IS officer. And we have the soul of private enterprise led by the likes of Sri Narayan Murthy ji and Mr. Dilip Shangvi ji head our boards and drivers. We are a bit more focused on the physical products or the product side rather than just pure service platforms. And so embedded systems, IoT, machine learning, big data analytics, and then finally autonomous decision making. Those are our focus areas. And like I said, we are patient. So we give labs, we give corporate connectivity, we give global expertise connectivity, we give you money, and we work with you shoulder to shoulder, kicking you occasionally, and hope that success comes quickly.
Yeah. It's great introduction. I think I personally have to say, I have been through this whole ringer of things, trying to start or trying to innovate and make those ideas come to fruition myself. And I think my challenge has been the same, and not having someone to kick my butt like when I need it, or when you actually need that support. Let's say if you're working on like electric vehicles, you definitely need government support or like some company support. And that's been definitely a big challenge on my end as well. And we have several entrepreneurs here that are in the same problem space of trying to figure out where is relevant, what's the checklist or criteria to think about. So let's start this discussion off by understanding why or when entrepreneurs, like accelerator programs are relevant for entrepreneurs, or when innovation programs are relevant to achieve this speed, scale, and success they're looking for. So let's like start off, since we started off with the introduction. Let's like start with Anupam, since he was talking about some of the acceleration programs and the government funding. Let's start with him to hear from him on why he thinks it's the way to go for entrepreneurs, or when it makes sense.
Brilliant question, Sudha. Actually, when it makes sense for an entrepreneur to accelerate. So it only makes sense for an entrepreneur to come into an accelerator when at least your product is ready and your market is a little bit proven. If either of those two things are not done, then accelerator is not the right place for you. So that means classically you have focused on a problem that your potential customers had, and you have created a solution that fits and meets the customer's need. If you've done that, then the customer is going to reward you with money, which is what every corporate entity needs. You need money coming in to allow you to be successful. That's your oxygen.
Yeah.
So customer first. So you have gone to the market and proven acceptance from customers, whether they pay you directly or the money comes in directly, but money should have started coming into your organization.
So there should be some revenue. Proof of
Yeah.
concept done and some revenue.
And the technology platforms or the technology devices are reasonably stable and ready for scale. If these two things tick, and you have the beginnings of a team that can go with you over a long period of time.
Mhm, mhm,
Without such a team, again, see, acceleration is exactly what it is. A bunch of very, very, very serious people who are invested in your success will come together, give you all kinds of advice, and give you an open road, give give you the path where you can raise more money
mhm,
and grow. But if your technology or your team or your market lets you down, then you will not be able to grow.
mhm.
I think that is a very, very critical thing that you need.
And when you say that, is there a number of like minimum number of sales revenue that you should have achieved, or is there a minimum number of sales that you would have achieved, or are we simply talking about having proof of concept done and having a minimum set of customers?
So I'll answer it a little bit differently. It's not about the amount of money, it's about validation of your assumptions. You would have had some assumptions that drive your revenue streams. If it is three assumptions that revenue is going to come by three different ways, then all three of them should have been proven to the satisfaction of an external audience. So Sudha or Rajshri should be able to look and say, yes, this looks reasonable. I mean, provided you scale up, this can grow into something big. But if either of one, two, three of your revenue streams are not proven, then you need to do some more work before you come into acceleration.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And I think once you have reached that level, I think it makes there's so much help out there. But then the question comes, how do you even reach to that level? Like then where does this innovation programs come into play, or how do they help? Maybe let's hear from Rajeshri on her view of where these come into play.
Um, so what Anupam said is very interesting. See, today the startup should have reached a certain point, right, when they evolve on that accelerator journey.
Mhm.
And one of the classic reasons why a lot of startup fail is because they think their solution should directly fit into solving the business problem. And I'm going to talk about what doesn't work and how they need to channel their thinking and how they need to evolve. So as an end customer, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at a solution that will expedite or solve my business problem. I don't have to recreate everything because there's already someone who's already built that. But what is missing is that they think that my system, which is my legacy system, it could be product, technology, or services, is redundant. You cannot just remove the existing legacy system and say, no, this is not good anymore. You use my solution and that will solve all your problem. It doesn't work like that. And because what they miss is how do they make their solution more interoperable? They need to understand first who their customer is, what kind of business function they have, what exactly are they trying to solve, and get this holistic view before you say that my solution fits this particular challenge. I'm not looking at addressing a small, minuscule problem within my organization. I'm looking at like what we're talking about, looking at scaling, which means if you are able to solve my business problem, which means this becomes a solution which could be scalable and is will address which it will address the challenges which the industry has. So it will become an industry large solution which will be able to solve that problem. So scalability, so interoperability and scalability is extremely important. And if they don't fit in this, then it's not about innovation, because the word innovation itself is misunderstood by many people. So innovation means I'm going to give to the world, which is beyond my own lifespan. It's not about today I'm innovating something, it's only addressing a small problem. No, innovation is far beyond what anybody can think about. And that is something I champion. And that's why I keep talking about clarifying what innovation means. Here we are trying to come together. You have some solution, technology, and capability that you have demonstrated, which is going to be able to address a business problem, or it could bring some solution. What are we achieving in all of this? At the end of the day, three things that I look for my business: increased productivity and efficiency, reduction in cost, and value and impact to the business. If I'm able to achieve these three objectives for my organization, yes, then I have a meaningful solution. If I am not, then of course, then we have a lot of work to do.
And that really makes sense in the sense, there is a saying, right? Ideas are dime a dozen. What matters is execution. Execution is the key. So when you're speaking about this, whether it is inside a company, innovating inside a company, whether it's like an entrepreneur innovating, what matters is that scoping out process of even like that whole business plan making process. Who are your customers? What is relevant? How are you reducing, what is the problem that you're solving, but in more importantly, who are your competitors and how are you placing yourself either in reducing costs or increasing productivity. So all of those are some things that entrepreneurs do need to consider. That's pretty much like what you're mentioning, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, Shruti, let's go to you to hear your thoughts on this subject.
No, I think I concur with Rajashri on that, because to me, innovation is a combination of getting an idea to implementation phase and
Yeah.
move it to an impact generating phase. So
Yeah.
that's where it has to span the entire spectrum without any gaps or without any spill within the cracks.
Got it.
And for this, it takes an ecosystem to come together to make sure an idea traverses all the way from the ideation stage to the impact stage.
So when you are mentioning, you are more going into the process side of things, whether it's like getting all this together, getting your go-to-market strategies or market research, all of that, right? Is there a specific vertical where this makes sense, or do you think this is kind of the groundwork that everyone needs to do?
I think this doesn't really is going to be vertical specific. I would say the challenges of an entrepreneur is going to be similar. Of course, there will be variations of it in different verticals, but the challenges of an entrepreneur is going to be a whole part of it is going to be generic across verticals and sectors. Things like, the entrepreneur running out of money or getting into the wrong market, or, suppose somebody is in a market that they don't have expertise in, or if they land into like bad partnerships and such, or, things of these sort. If you don't have a sufficient or a good marketing channel that is active in promoting your brand. So these are things that every entrepreneur has to watch out for, irrespective of the vertical they are in. But it may be much more specific. Like, for example, for a B2C startup, marketing may be much more needed than a B2B startup, where for them a face-to-face sales or demos, those may be much more needed. So it's just a proportion that has to vary. Are you putting in more of the salt or the sugar or pepper? It will differ, but it's all going to be part of our whole holistic, wholesome
Yeah.
thing.
If I might just add, sorry, Sudha, to what Shruti was
Yeah.
saying, that I agree with her. It's not a vertical, it's a horizontal.
Yeah.
And the first question that early stage startups find themselves asking is, should we be doing this project or not?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they have to look within, do the skills and competencies they bring, the innovation they bring, resonate with the market that they are attempting to create. So we run something called the Idea Accelerator, two-week program dedicated to, should you do this project or not? Once you've done that, then the questions arise, how do we do it best? So there's the tech part, and like she was so validly saying, the market part, the money part, the team part. So that's the how bit. And then finally you come to, how do we scale the damn thing and make a lot of money? And that's the acceleration part. So you've got idea, you've got incubation, and then you've got acceleration.
Got it. Idea, incubation, and acceleration. So then going into like that next thing that was very relevant for entrepreneurs, let's like say, be it at the Cisco Launchpad or the innovation program at Rolls-Royce, how do you guys even select like innovation programs for your own company? Is it more, are you looking at like internal only, or is this external as well? And I'm going to stretch that question to Anupam as well to think about like the checklist and criteria. But I want to start with Rajashri to understand what is she looking for? I understand the core goals, which is productivity and scale, costs, and all of that. But when you are even choosing that incubation like phase, how are you even picking and choosing? Are there criteria that you're looking at, even more basic than having proven their concept or like having done like the groundwork? Is there any other criteria that you're looking for?
So that's why I don't run programs. So it's
Yep.
not even program at all for us.
Yeah.
So what we're looking like, that's I call it. So our whole thing is ecosystem. That's what we are looking at.
Ecosystem.
So I reach out to the ecosystem to see, and okay, so there is a challenge statement, but I want to understand who is the closest, because I'm only interested in the deep tech startups. So is there someone with that expertise? And also one of the challenges, so we ran just one accelerator program last year, but there are a lot of things that we learned through that, and that is there is always a mismatch of expectation with the startups because they don't understand who they are working with. So we are not a technology organization, we are an industrial tech organization. So if you look at our core business, it's about manufacturing. So we are in the aviation space. So which means there's a huge domain focus that exists. So if a startup just thinks that they are producing some technology or a solution that could just fit into what we are looking at, then that's a misconception that they have, because they are always used to working with some technology organizations, and where if something doesn't work, you can scrap it out, or it's at least they can implement, and it doesn't work, it's fine. But in our case, ours is it's engines, which means we have a lot of customer centric data.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to work when we cannot share the data itself. There's a lot of high security of data, and so for them to even work with us, they don't understand what it means to work with us. How do you co-create? It's not about you come and tell me, you just implement something or you build a solution means I need to give you PU. And that's another misconception that the startups have. They think that just because they have a solution, that means the corporates will have to give them a PU. That's wrong. Till I don't really take it forward, till you don't work with me in hands-on, understand whether it's going to fit in or not. And once the POC is successful, then the next step comes about. But even before the POC is successful, you keep talking about just give me a PO, give me a PO. That itself shows that they are not ready to work with the corporates. To me, that's a very bad message that they carry.
Yeah. It's actually almost a learning for me right now, like the way you corrected innovation program to ecosystem. I actually personally need to change my thought process as well, from just thinking about, hey, here's a solution that works, to like a bigger thing of thinking about, okay, here's like the proof of concept, let's like collaborate and see what can come out of it, is like the right thought process in a way, if I need to like work with, let's like say your company. And similarly, let's like hear from Shruti also. Like, I want to hear if there's anything that she sees from her side of selecting the right ideas.
So for us at Cisco, the approach has been both proactive and reactive response to the market needs, which means what people like you and me require to live comfortably in a world around us.
Yeah.
And this may shape into innovations of all sorts. It could be a process based innovation, it could be a product based, or a business model based innovation, or even just a simple customer experience orchestrating innovation. So these are some filters that we try to see and apply on these startups that we choose with. But we majorly look at three pillars at Launchpad. So the first one is around enterprise tech. We work with B2B deep tech startups very closely because that's a very difficult space. And especially in the Indian scenario, getting a B2B startup to scale is like it's a humongous journey for startup founders. So that's a place that we very actively play in, also given Cisco's expertise there in the enterprise side.
Yeah.
So this would encompass things like collaboration, security, the core of networking, conversational AI, and things like that. The second part is pretty interesting because this covers the whole gamut of digitization and IoT. All the way from your smart cities where you think of smart healthcare to retail to space tech to mining, wherever digitization has a role to play, it is the coming together. Maybe this is because it's breakfast time or brunch time for most of us, but we keep coming back to a lot of food-based example. Anupam just mentioned cake, and we went on to salt, pepper. Now I would want to give you an example of a pizza. So think of this as a pizza base, and putting as many toppings on top of it. That's how the integration really work. As many applications that we can build together, as many toppings that we have together. So that really lends its taste and beauty to the ecosystem that we live in. And the third one is far more interesting, because this pillar is all about futuristic tech. Tech that is coming out of research labs, startups with very disruptive ideas, things like quantum safe computing, Li-Fi. We've worked with a couple of startups, very pioneering one like Kuno Labs, Wellmany in these spaces, and they are totally redefining the I would say the horizon of security as we know today, right? They're totally transforming that space. So these are the three major pillars. And as Anupam observed, the scope really comes for accelerators like ours when they are ready for it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really help either of the parties if they are much earlier in the game. We can't really help them in a meaningful way. It's not a good use of both our times. But when they are ready to scale up, if they are able to take on like the next big global project along with us, I think that's where especially corporate accelerators like us can add a lot of value. And we've done that. We've got at least 5 startups are on board as Cisco's partners. They've gotten 2 exits from our portfolio. 71% of them have raised follow-on funding. We've got immensely good results. But the whole idea here is the readiness of the startup. That matters quite a lot. And if we are up for it, we are game too.
Yeah. And I think that kind of like puts this whole thing into perspective too. Like this event, for example, we have about 35,000 people. This wouldn't have been possible without COVID. COVID kind of accelerated it and created a platform for it, and technology that's supporting it is being pushed to acceleration as well. And that's the case with a lot of things, right? Like we have to see electric vehicles, we have to IoT, whatever. You have to be in with the technology and keep up, and at the same time like see the value out of it. It's kind of a
Absolutely.
combination of what Rajeshri said and you're saying, keep up with the technology, and at the same time look at what it can contribute, how it's like solving the current problems and improving over it.
Yeah,
And
because Sudha, you brought this COVID topic, I should, definitely mention that healthcare in specific was much farther away from the digitization vortex. People hardly thought that would come into the limelight of digitization, but we've all seen what's been happening.
yeah.
We've got a couple of our portfolio startups in the healthcare. They've even deployed at Leh. So
Yeah.
it's so satisfying to see technology in play for delivering quality remote healthcare at 12,000 feet.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true. Thanks for bringing that on. And then let's get the final comment also from Anupam on this. I want to hear if he thinks about any assessment criterias or checklists for entrepreneurs that he recommends.
Yeah. So I can just share what we deeply believe in, that as a innovator, as the promoter of a startup, you're pushing the productivity frontier. You're making something new happen. So a lot depends on you. So we focus on the granular reality of the people. What skills do they really bring? What competencies do they really have? Are they in for the long haul, or are they just clever, intellectually clever and smart? You need to be very, very smart and clever, but if that's all you are, probably you might not be there for the long haul. So we check what fundamentally you bring to the equation, because you are at the in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
And like I said, Icreate takes bets on entrepreneurs more than anything else. So if those skills are coming together, then perhaps if not one project, then something else, you definitely will succeed at something else. So very, very briefly, when you are approaching accelerators or incubators, be very clear upfront about what you bring to the table, whether it is an understanding of the problem statement, a core technical expertise that you bring, the ability to work with money, create money, get money in, all sorts of things are needed. But be very clear about what you bring to the table, what your co partners bring to the table, and then you have a very big chance.
Yeah. with such an esteemed panel of people and the right topic. I think I could keep continuing this for another hour or two and learn so much more from it. And I hope I could. But there's about 4 minutes, like 3 minutes left at this point for this session. And I want to finally, firstly, thank you for this amazing panelists and for giving their time to actually teach some of us and some of the entrepreneurs about what is relevant. And I want to wrap this up just by taking maybe 1 or 2 tips. If they have one word or of advice for entrepreneur, what would they be? What would that be? I think they've already said it, like what be in with the need of the hour. They've said like do the groundwork. Think about like your goals of increasing productivity, interoperability, and scalability. Think of all that. But if let's say you just have to wrap it up with one word of advice, what would that be? Anupam, you want to take a shot at that?
Don't focus on the money, focus on the value. Each program you bid for will give you a certain amount of money. Sometimes projects get into the trap of going program by program wise to pick up those little bits of money. Please don't do that. Money will come your way if you are providing a good solution. Trust us on that. Trust us on that. Please don't focus only on the money. All the very best.
That's superb advice. Shruti?
So I would say 3 C's: ensure there is clarity in what you want to do, alignment on the vision. The second one is to ensure the communication channels are open. You need to ensure the right messaging gets across and communicated properly, especially in this virtual worlds that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is to be consistent. Despite the challenges that we are all in, it's important to stay consistent and keep performing. Not only just stay in touch and say hello and good morning messages every morning on WhatsApp, but it's about performing and showing the value. Just Anupam mentioned just now, right? So that's very important to stay consistent.
Great. Thank you so much. And finally, Rajeshri.
Okay, I will sum it up by saying first ask yourself who is an innovator? And I'll give a very simple definition. Innovator is a visionary who can think beyond his own lifespan, who can create something which will exist beyond next 50 years or 100 years. He's a visionary, and which means you have to give to the world, which is benefiting everybody. So innovation is about being inclusive, and it is never exclusive. And innovation also doesn't mean running after money. The moment you put innovation equal to dollar value, you're not innovating. So forget about that, you're an innovator itself. So you need to outline all of this within yourself, have that clarity. And when you have that clarity, that is when you can achieve. And innovation equals to quality and not quantity. So when you summarize all of this and you ask what is that you're trying to do, and you will find your answers coming to you. And when you go with that single focus, an absolute focus, and wanting to deliver and achieve, then things will follow your way. You don't have to run after things, things will come your way. So be that somebody who's a game changer in this world.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. This has been super, super useful session. And I once again thank all the speakers, and for all those entrepreneurs attending this session. I hope you take away that you have to focus on value, not on money. 3 C's, as Shruti said. And finally, try to think about giving back to the world and think of quality. So I hope everyone out there attending found this session super useful. Thanks, everyone. I think we're going to wrap this session up. Thank you once again. Great job, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
So
for
much.
being a wonderful host. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah.